Hello, hello, and welcome to. Hello, and welcome to. Hello, welcome to. Pop cartoon Kabala. Shurcha, rescue Chita, and so. It's almost a transition right now. And it feels like the big step in a transition. Let's say globally, Aquarius brain, just globally, transition. And that starts with the range of noticings. And at its best, reflects the best of what people have been able to realize and thus feel responsible to, at least want to somehow take responsibility for. And this is the beginning of any degree of responsibility that can be taken. I almost said on purpose, but even compulsively. Let's say compulsively taking responsibility. The spider protects its eggs, bless their hearts. Going back to core priorities, which is the source of life, core priorities. To the degree that there is a coherent creation myth in the Torah, to the degree it really does seem to describe it as something warmly birthed, alive in water specifically. And a lot of the entire history is too small a word, but we'll go with it. History of prayer, right? It's just for water. Or worst comes to worst, there's just too much water. And as we talked sort of just already, the Elul Virgo responsibility noticing mechanism and how it checks in, covers so much ground about that, but he has so much more to say beyond that, because she is the great divine mother understanding. She is that, like, the degree to which Elul is Virgo and the degree to which Virgo is that way, it's very hard to say without saying wrong. And this is part of the problem of talking about the realizations themselves, especially once they are gendered into a polarity. And I'm not saying a duality, I'm not saying a binary, but a polarity, because there's a range, polarities are every extreme. Every extreme. Batman's got a lot of enemies, there's a lot of polarities, it's like whatever range of genders there are, it's an even number. Even if it's infinite, it's an even number of infinites, because the binary creates a converse through which it is defined. Cis, like CIS, is a much later word than most other words in the cultural canon, because it's retroactive, retroactive. And that is part of what responsibility asks us of us, to step into the retroactive and notice after the fact, alas and alack, and please help us do better. This is like a human broad priority, I'd say, in the core of prayer, a mourning of what was impossible, and the hope of noticing through, showing up within. And I think this is the common denominator in the entire next discourse he's saying, because the beginning of it was great and talked about, the range of associations before, and like the letter and the letters, letters are great. But he's about to launch into a whole thing about the mystery of 40 specifically. And it's in the context of a couple other things. You know, how do you get 40 from? I'm going to skip as many of them as I can. But they're so good and in their way crucial. Like to get the 40, you need to have the double twos. So I'm going to start from 11. In the ad, it says I start from 15, but we're going to start from 11. Bnei Yisaschar, the Maimon and Elul. הקדים לנו השם יברך חודש אלול ימי רצון לזמן תשובה קודם ראש השנה והנה ראש השנה הוא בית ימים בזמן הזה שני בתי דינים כשר ורפה כנודע במכתבי האריזה. Everyone knows that Rosh Hashanah is basically 2 days long, and you know there's a lot of trepidation in getting ready, especially the week before. The week before, just doing a lot of soul work. I'm sorry to say it that way. It feels like a non-descriptive thing, but I really mean going out and singing in the middle of the night with your whole heart about how sorry is the practice. And it seems to go back a while. They did find that one writing of it, just the penitential sort of like late night, midnight, or early morning dawn. Absolute, just like I'm so sorry for even the things, and we are not I am, but we are amidst a hope of taking more responsibility than we were gonna, and thus be able to keep things from falling apart. And this is the great hope in this etiquette, right? Elul, Virgo, right? Take responsibility before it's too late. It's before Rosh Hashanah, before it goes into the full Libra, which has a sort of, dismissiveness to it, let's say. Part of the difference between Libra and Virgo, the impending difference is it's already gone. But then what's left behind it? And this is the interplay. And he's going to say this in a language. הקדים לנו השם יברך חודש אלול ימי רצון לזמן התשובה קודם ראש השנה ושני ראש השנה ובית ימים בזמן הזה שני בתי דינים כשר יפה כנודע בכתבי האריזה. There's two ways to judge people, right? There's two courts, he calls it. The hard one and the soft one. And it's about language and enunciation on some level. But don't forget how broadly they understand enunciation as the thing that makes reality, let's say, the enunciation. The pronunciation defines, in this concept of creation, there's two ways to say things, hard and soft. And there's also two courts in heaven. Hard and soft. And there's 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, right? There's the hard one and the soft one. Kenoda, as is known, because everyone knows it. Yom Aleph Dina Kashi Yasod Leah, Yom Bet Dina Rafi Yasod Rachel. One for Leah. The hard one is Leah, and the soft one is Rachel. Let us digest for a second this binary. The thing he said right before puts Rachel on the chariot as one of the big four, and not even Leah. But elementally is understood a very deep schism in the entire polarity of the heavens in the context of Rachel and Leah. Because it's the 12 suns associated with the 12 moons. We're not going to look at the sun this time around of God. He's got a very nice God narrative, but I'm going to avoid it because it's not about 2 and it's not about 40. This one's about 2, so it is about 40, and you'll hear what I mean. Because there's hard judgment, the secret of Leah, and there's soft judgment, secret of Rachel. And it came before us that God passed on A medicine and a healing for every Virgo moment. 696 hours, which is, of course, the count in Kashe, Kuf Shin He, and Rafe, Resh Pe He. 696. You can envision that as widely and deeply as you have a practice or thought to do. 696 hours are the order, hard and soft. Kasher Rafe. Birtzot Yudke Vavke with will God, and Birtzot here is also this same 696. Birtzot, if the will, if it's wanted. Drache ish gamoiva. In the will of God is also the way of a person and their enemy. Everyone's just dancing. But here he defines the enemy. This is from Proverbs 16:7. The Elam is smiling. Right? When you think about the vision or concept of heaven as a giant court, let's say the MT trip at the end, or wherever heaven is at the end, a court where you are judged, let's say by yourself, by your own feelings deep down, your own standards, or by some external standard that is objective or at least incharged cosmically. And the further up you go, the more close to the true of one fundamental priority it is, let's say. But the initial spectrum there is priorities being expressed to the left or to the right. And in Kabbalah, traditionally, it's an inversion of the modern political spectrum, right? Where the right was chesed and the left was restraint. The left was gold and the right was silver, because you would just give silvers away to take care of the poor, and that was the right. And this inversion happens sometimes. It doesn't matter why right now for a second. I'm sure it does, but in the will, in the desired thing of God that goes in the way of people and their enemies, their enemies being the angels that are criticizing, right? The floating priorities that are somehow troubled, the just floating conceptual concerns that argue for a thing or after a thing. Let's say Shabbos is the main encounter that people have with angels, on Shabbos, because you're followed home. Most of the time, there's a sense of angels all the time. And even at night, let's say you go to sleep, there's definitely sort of angelic invocations, that certainly cement angelic presence in a room around a kid and whatever. But there's the ones who criticize and the ones who encourage. There's the left and there's the right. Angels criticizing in the courts in heavens, testing every soul, apparently forever. Just testing every single soul forever and being apparently the standards are fair. Once you get to a high enough court, that's the rumor, but who can say? Only people who've made it that far. שיבואו בני אלוקים ותצא, ולא עניונים לזכור בין הזמנים. אבל ברצות השם אותנו בתשובה, ותפילתנו באלו, התרצו שעות קודם ראש השנה, גם אויבם. Yeah, it confirms even in the will that is the 696. The 696 is the will. Biratzot, tirtsu, tarutz, 696 just is the will, the big will, with a tav before it. Ratzot, tarutz. The big, tough really doesn't lend gravitas and turns the thing into a 696. But the will that brings us back into some integrity and our heart's priorities in this will, the one will that you notice, because you can only really notice one will at a time, but it's plural into singularity. Biratzot. Sha'ot. And this is the hours. Hours before Rosh Hashanah. And everyone has this, including the enemies. Sisters and mom, right? They all pray. All pray and all crying. Yashlimu tovin meteku v'tededinim kasharafa. Hatzarot yitavchu l'ratzon ayin mitzod l'nai v'titzeh shem yibrach Yisrael b'simcha v'yismach Yisrael masav al kein mitzod b'gematria b'pamim samei It goes both ways, the will, right? Because it's also the troubles, because the troubles are bound up in the will, alas. Alas, if the troubles were not bound up in the will, writ very large, the will, the thing that was wanted. Let's say hostile angels. What is the power of hostile angels? The reality that seems to conform to their priorities. Often stupid, often, what's the word? Alienated. Because that is what happens when there are alienated absolute priorities floating in the air. But it's hard to avoid for some reason. I want to blame the language. I think it's a lot of why there's a human will to try to fix the problem through the language, right? The Egyptians received the way out of the social problems through thought, like just to find a social language by seeing what's happening in heaven and being able to relate back the information, which is the challenge of, perspective. Elitism, condescension, a lot of terrible words for it. But there's two judgments, right? And there's two courthouses, apparently, two standards, hard and light. It's nice to boil the standards down, hard and light. And with the goodwill, the hope is to sweeten both courts. The hard chord is pretty lightest, the light chord is pretty hard, even at its lightest. And to sweeten all of them somehow is the hope of sweetening the judgment itself through understanding. And this is what the next bunch of pieces that is really the heart of this piece is about. The water implicit in the will. Oh, Yishlimoto will complete him. And the two courthouses, the two standards will be sweetened, hard and soft. And this is the numerology, right? Kuf Shin He is 405. Yes, 405. And Rapeh is only 285. Reish Pei He. Depending if they count that 6, and it seems like they do. I think they do count that 6. And through this, the hope is through being right with this. Alas, there's two standards. Now, I think this is a personal message about the personal standards that we have that make us right, the way that we judge lightly and the way that we judge harshly. The standards we have for the things we're taking care of. And maybe this is even a tikkun on like Nietzsche, right? It's not that there's Slav mentality and master mentality. We all have both mentalities as part of the theater. And there's definitely predominance in one direction or another. And there's also code switching, which is a lot of the hope of effective social transformation beyond just personal transformation. But no, there's something even bigger called joy. And the promise in the will is joy. V'yismach Yisrael b'osav. Al ken mitzvah b'gematria bet pamim sameach. And so, this word for the will, ratzot, without the 6. Oh no, with the 6. 696. 2 times happy. Sameach is 348 times 2. 696. I'm saying. This is the intro. אומרים בנוסח הסלוח בכל באלה נכבשה דרכינו ונחכה ונשובה אליך כי מנחה פשוטה לקבל שווים. It says in the liturgy of the Slichus El, I will find my ways and I will probe and return to you, because your right is simple to receive exiles, returners, shavim, prisoners. Oh, prisoner, inyan pshita yamin. Oh, yeah. Utosh yesh lefaresh. So, he really wants to start from this, the context of the outstretching of the right arm. Usually, in most systems, not associated with this moon. But that's not why he's saying it. He's saying it because it's at the beginning of a lot of different things. It is the yud, is the hand, right? But it's also the men. Because it's, well, back me up over here, man. Yamin. The context of putting out the yamin, the pshita, the simple right, God's name, Yisbarach, blessed be his name. There is to explain this, the simple circulation of the letters that spread themselves out in their expansion. Every letter, has like an expansion there. Because I'd say in Hebrew, all the letters are names. So if it was, instead of B, it was Billy. It was like alpha and beta. Like alpha is a bunch of letters, right? A, P, H, L, PH again, I think. Alpha. No, I'm sorry. That is beta spelling, at the very least. All letters get beta when you expand them in this manner. A is 1. L, let's say, is like 30. I don't think it is, but let's pretend L was anything, which I guess it is in like Latin, right? L, V, X, X, Y, I. L, V, X, X. Roar, says the movie lion. L, V, X, X, V, I. It's very exciting to slow down into the thing. And I feel very invited. The simplifying of the letters into the names of themselves, the smaller letters. So let's say Aleph as 1, but Aleph Lamed Pei is 130 and 80, which is 120. So Aleph suddenly becomes also the 120 because it's the 2 10s and the expansion. Alephs are just like 2 10s and the sort of interstitial expansion. For example, if you would expand letters that way, and a lot of the initial letter conversation we're having about Virgo and Elul is the very smallest thing he describes, the little yud. Hine, Miloi Yamin, Adonai. Let's say you take a divine epitaph like God's right. God's right. Or right. And it doesn't quite have the same Indo-Aryan correctness suggestion in Hebrew or Arabic, to the best of my knowledge, it does have a power suggestion versus a softness suggestion. And I think of the arms as kasher v'rafeh, or kaheh. But if you let's say you'd expand the word Yamin Adonai, Yud, Mem, Yud, Nun, Yud, He, Vav, He. Right? It's already a perfect little song, already there canon in the Bible. It's just a beautiful little song. But you could just break up into just like the letters that build it up. And the Yuds, he throws in B'Yudin, Chesed. This amount of Yuds gives you Chesed, kindness, which is, I think it's a numer thing also, 60, 20, 88. Let's see if it matches. Yud, 10, 6, 4. Mem, Yud, Nun, Yud, He, Vav, He. The last He is with a Yud at the end of it instead of a He. And all the He's, all the end in Yuds. He, Vav, He. But if you put all this together, it's the same gematria as Rachamim. Mercy and wombhood. It's like a masculine patronym for wombhood is mercy, Rachamim. Forgive my number didacticness. I hate doing this, but it's part of what he's doing there. He's doing a little apostrophe, which means he wants you to think about the number mix. Resh is 200, 208, 248, 258, 258 plus 40, 298, let's say. But one of these 40s is not like the other, as you'll see. Because mercy is the secret. What is mercy? The circulation of kindness. Very elemental definition, right? And let's say it's the most elemental activity that there is. Let's say it's the most elemental activity there is. Just circulating kindness through mercy. It's not so elemental. You need to have a relationship to have mercy. You need to have a context and a platform and a framework and a capacity in order to have mercy. 298 is Rachmin, is mercy. Yud Mem Yud Nun Yud He Vav He Gematria Rachmim Husod Hipashtut Chesed. This is the secret. This is the secret of the circulation of the kindness. Chesed. Chesed, you guys. I don't know if any of you guys only got into Kabbalah from like pagan sort of hermeneutic stuff. It's pronounced chesed, not chesed. Felt like a kindness to explain that, but maybe it's a little imposing and condescending. Yud and chesed that are the right hand, because the yud's in chesed, the yud in chesed, kevan shehu yamin. And chesed is the definition of the right, kindness. You know, it's really trying to be expressed the whole time. Like the center is in the hopes of expressing the kindness and effectively, and that's why liberalism is at the center, right? Let's say there's a kindness impulse in liberalism that's like, go for it, you know, encouragement, just sell, you know, and a pivot into centrism that it just is, because the way to express kindness, the only effective way to express kindness that is experienced as kindness as opposed to restraint, is through mercy. Let's say this is the conceptual system at hand. The secret of the circulation of the kindness. And this is why it says that you fill on us with mercy, in the order of the shofar blowings. But they even start doing the slichot, that by the Ashkenazim they start doing it just last night. But timalei aleinu, and fill us. Timalei is 400, something like that also. I don't know. In Rachamim, I'm trying to say that because it is the timalei emphasized, and it's not, but he's getting there, right? The malay. Ashuva od lefaresh ki mincha pashut, and so on. I just want to go back to say more about this thing of the right is simple to reach out. Mahu pshitat yamin. What is the circulation? What is the reaching out of the kindness of the right? And I want to say to you, pshitat yaminu gam ken milu yamin kanal yud mem yud menu. I want to tell you guys a secret, he said. The circulation of the good, of the kindness, is also in the filling of the right. Like we said, Yud Vav Daled, Mem Mem, Yud Vav Daled, Nun Vav Nun, right? The right itself, the fundamental right, which I must emphasize, is expressed as kindness and is roughly equatable more with the highest political aspirations of overindulgence. Let's say, wouldn't it be great if we could just overfeed people and overhouse people, right? This is a fundamentally chesed type impulse, right? If only we had too much for sure all the time, and then even a way to make money from the too much, right? Even just like a way to make the too much into even better, cure it and ferment it. There is the hope of spreading whatever good and taking care of whatever is possible. And this is in the Yamin. And this is the tragic irony of modern politics, of course, is that it's incredibly reversed, right? The violence is the right. Aspirationally, the violence is everywhere, but not really, right? The left pivots into a centrism that cannot overpower the neglect of the actual priorities that it's been neglecting as part of the social covenant in liberalism, whatever it is, whatever the limits are that sort of build a resistance regionally. It's a damn shame that got inverted. I blame the French Revolution, just sort of flipping narratives, but I guess it's for the best. Inversion therapy, politics has always been a little backwards in its way. And restraint, so much more associated with refusal to support social programming, and take care of people. This refusal to take care of people, focusing on defense, right? Defense is like restraint, traditionally, potentially. But then I exaggerate, because Netzach is really more the act of sort of externalized conflict. And Gvura is holding back, right? Is the budget you don't spend. So maybe this is not a great metaphor. Because the problem with chesed traditionally is the unchecked, unfocused benefit of it. But that is what he's opening with, reminding us that the good and bounty that are happening now are for everybody, us and our enemies, the players and the haters. And this is what makes it a wonderful opportunity for just paying attention and showing up and advocating to the angels that actually really are each other's hearts in some kind of way, and our own hearts that we're reflected in and reflections of. And he wants to go back to this thing. Okay, the expansion of this word, Yamin, into 4 letters, Yud Mem, Yud Nun. As opposed to with the tetragrammaton, it's its own kind of tetragrammaton. Do you notice that? Yud instead of a Hey, Mem, and then Nun. It's a little like the Hebrew word for love, a Hava, where there's 2 letters that are adjacent to each other, interspersed with one of these very significant letters, a Hey, a Yud. Ha, Shev, Ha, Shutade, Mispar, Tavshin, Hinehu, Bigmatria, Tatau. On the calculator, the 50, the simple 50 of the, so like in Latin, there's the LVCXXXIIIF, not F. No, the F, or should I say the F is before, but bad example. It's all Greek to me, but like the Hebrew version is there's 5 final letters. There's 22 letters in conventional Hebrew, but 5 of them, the matzapach, are end letters, and they look different but sound the same, but they always look this way at the end of a word. 5 fundamental letters, certainly associated with any and everything that you would think that 5 is also associated with. It's with the same ones, right? They're also one of each of that, but somehow also outside of the map. It's not part of the 10, it's not part of the 22. Mem, Nun, Tzadik, Kuf, Pei, right? Matzapach. And as far as that goes, there's only 3, let's say 3 layers of numbers in the Hebrew descriptive denomio, right? Aleph is 1, Yud is 10, and Kuf is 100. So similarly, Bet is 2, Chaf is 20, and Resh is 200, right? 222. And these are 4 things called De'ik, because it's Aleph, Yud, Kuf. Mispar Tefshin. In this system, sometimes they count the final letters as much bigger than the original letters. And this is not popular in like listing the numbers of years yet, because the years are still tidily back to just like 57, something for 57 something for. But let's say you would take this word, you mean, and fill it so that every letter was its own 3 bunch of letters, Yud, Vav, Daled, Mem, Mem, Yud, Vav, Daled, Nun, Vav, Nun. And you calculate them, and like with that last Nun at the end, and that last Mem, the Nun is 700. There's only 400. The Tuf is 400. That's as many as you get. Nope. At the back of it, there's the extra letters. Mem Sofit is like 500. Nun Sofit is like 600. Yeah, right. 700. I tell a lie. 600, 700. Goes around the other way. ואל תטמא על החפץ, הנה בחשבון הזה עולן לחשבון גם המם סתומה תפרש. Yup, the mem stuma is 500. Factor that in, he said, having backhandedly. The nun is 600, the mem is 500 in this system. So don't not factor that in, he says. והרי כעת בעולם הרלוונטי חומת ירושלים פרוצה נכתבה מם פתוחה בסוף תיבה. And he says, in our day, we spell Jerusalem with the small mem because it's at the end, because it's broken. It's written open at the end of the word, just like the wrong ending. And I think that's a reference to the way something in the Bible is written. Oh yeah, Nehemiah. Okay, I'm not going down that wormhole. Yes, I am. צריך להיות מם סתומה כדמיון החמה. In the Gemara, it talks about in the prophecy of Nehemiah, it's written that the walls of Jerusalem were broken, and the mem has to be shaped, the closed mem has to be shaped like a wall. So the use of the word Nehemiah, because it's made small, by the being broken open. Prutza. Anyan tat ao. And this is Gematria, tough, Ayin Vav. 876. That's how much the Yumin is. 876. The good Yumin, not the bad one. Maybe the bad one also. It sounds all-inclusive, right? Us and our enemies. We all have cursed nationalisms. We all have cursed idealisms. Whatever. We all have opportunities to realize and express. Here's where it gets crazy. It's been a little crazy so far. It's going into weird number associative realization stuff in the context of the open and closed numbers. I promise you it's really simple, and I promise you it's really accessible. The mem is just a big right? But there's a that starts something. That's the one that breaks. Mine. Moi. Monday, Prutza. But then there's the one that is the thing at the end. Sublime. That's not so broken, the one at the end. Sublime. You just kind of sink into it like water. And it's very associated with the original and fundamental water, which you'll recall is the beginning of the border between above and below, between the wall and definition of above and below. And even in the cosmic Hellenistic theory, the main difference between above and below had to do with the water. like the well, here, he was going to say it for me. V'inyan tat'au kasher omer lecha. הנה למד השם יברח למשה סדר תפילה לעורר רחמים על ידי י"ג מידות הרחמים. י"ג תיקונים לקני קדיש הזקן מלא רחמים. So the context and concept of this secret expanded rite that is the secret of the circulation of the kindness that is almost unavoidable just this time of year is to learn. I just want to tell you, God taught Moses, learned Moses, schooled Moses in the order of the prayers to awaken the mercy. If there's an advanced mystical science in the religion, in any religion that's effective or good, whatever, however that would be gauged regionally, whatever, to awaken the mercy through the 13 ways. It's just a little song that just reminds God that he's beyond all these things. El Rachum L'chanan. It's associated with the 13 fixings of the divine beard. That's a whole other discourse. And just acceptance and letting things go. Rachum L'chanan Erech Payim, tremendous patience. Chesed ve'emes, kindness and truth. Natir Chesed Alafim, passing out kindnesses to just the legions. And there it is, right? Expansion into thousands. Alafim, thousands that are themselves very close to this word. Alepha, for one. Because 1,000 is an expansion in the same way that 10 and 100 are an expansion. But alas, there's no end letter to 1,000. They get as far as, I get 8? Golly. 9. What's 4 plus 5? הקהינו מנהג ישראל לכל תפוצות הגולה למראה י"ג מידות של רחמים בימים ההם בזמן הזה. הנה כדבור מקובלים הקדמונים, בעל קרניים כמפית מגומבון מורן שמשון באוסטרופוליה. Oh, he's got a story from Shimshon of Ostropolia here. Like the ancient older ones, like Shimon of Ostropolia, used to say about this mystery of the divine beard in heaven, which is the infinite mercy. Because this is the code for how deep into the God and expressing. The long face is the longer beard, the whiter beard. And the fixings of it are associated with the accomplishments of Moses to make it that things would be okay. Basically, to take the edge off. And just that life would go on through mercy, right? From mercy. And this is one of the seminal moments in the 5 books. It's never like anyone deserves anything. But at some point, there's just mercy. And it's asked for, and sometimes it's not even asked for. Much and unlike the world, you know. And there's like degrees of mercy drawing mechanisms. Let's say advocacy. Let's say productivity, right? Let's say just being helpful and worthwhile somehow, right? And even just being cute, like Noah, just being adorable. There's a closed mem and an open one. And the open one starts things and the closed one ends things. And God's beard, as if, has 876 hairs. Did you know that? God's beard, his longest beard, has 876 hairs. Mimin. That's what their hairs are called here. The little beard hairs are called mimin. Nun yud mem yud nun. Husod misgav le'atut betzara. And this is the protector in the rough times, you know? Deep patience, being beyond the world, whatever that means. Okay, sorry. The itot in times, because 876 is the same letters in times, itot. The times that are rough, that are taken care of somehow by the capacity to see past it, is somehow associated, and this will come in handy in a test in heaven, 876. It's not the end of it. This is the secret of the garter in the times that are rough. ונמשכים רחמים וחסדים למרכבה שלמה, אברהם יצחק, יעקב רחל, רד על דגלי המרכבה בגטריה תתאו. This is a bold throwaway from Shimon Vostroplia. I thought of the divine chariot as being like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And if there was a fourth, it's already a sausage party, you know. I would think it's King David, you know, as the fourth. And I think he thought so too. But that's not how they're framing it here. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Rachel. The four legs of the chariot. Is Gematria 876. Im kein mekanima, yamin pshuta, numilo yachshev, nun pshuta, tavshin azai, yem gematria, tatav so dikna, kadisha yim gemel midot. And if so, I got a little proof, which is related to the word for like a beard hair, nima. The simple yamin, you know, the simple one, let's say just like 40, 50, 60, but the last nun is big and it's 760, then it's 766. No, 876. Must not be that pshuta. Wait a second. How does he get that? 700 plus 176. What is the 6? In Yamin, pshuta. So it must be expanded. It still has to be expanded. Yud, mem, yud, nun. So we do that one together. 14, 20, 40, 40, 80, 100, like 200 and something. Abraham, Yitzchak, Rachel, Leah. 4 legs in the Merkava. Those 4 names, those do. What's that got to do? Soda dignagdisha yomido. In the filling of that number that became, the 200 and something, with the 700. 200 and something plus 700 is, wait a second, it must be less than 200 or something. We're going to do this. Yud, 10, Vav, Dalid, 20, 80, 20, 120, 120, plus 600. Still not quite right. I don't see it. Nope. I won't lie to you guys. How does he spell that works? Just the last nun? Or maybe, no, the last mem also. I forgot it a second time. Plus 500. Okay, fine. Okay, now it works. Yeah, okay. Where's the 6? The secret of the beard, the holy beard, the 13 principles. They don't come back alone. They don't come back empty. And they guard 2 times. There's the 6 in the struggle, in the torture. And it turns around and turns it around. Soft, like he says in the Shavuos. He has a little footnote there mentioning in a Shavuos context, in the context of desire itself and will itself. But not the fact not said what's on, and it turns into a good opportunity for anyone and everyone just to really look at themselves and address core issues and enact enough realization that change just happens. And I'm afraid he's going to keep building on this. But just sit with this and contemplate this, and the good name will atone for whatever we misunderstand or misrepresent. I want to say more about the 13, but I want to say it later, he says. He's going to finish up with a whole section on the 13, and that is coming. But I've been wanting to talk about the men. I've been wanting to talk about the 40, because he hinted to it. He started off a whole thing he's going to do. Do you guys have strength for it on this one? You don't exist. And if you do in the future, will you have strength, or should I record another one? I think I have to just keep going, boys. No, too much is too much. Okay, I'll tell you what. I won't do the full thing, but I will do the last little closer that leads us to the most famous pshat around Elul, the most favorite acronym for it. Amru Doshe Shemot. The people who look for these things, they used to say, Ani Dodi Li. From the Song of Songs. I am to my beloved is to mine. Elul. It's the first letters of Elul. Everyone knows. אשר שמח שומרה מצילה מכל מקטרג מעלות כתבתם בשער השמיים לשמונה כי רצון הוא אמר חכם אין טעם רצון אבל I want to get the next thing, but he wants to emphasize this thing. I am to my beloved and my beloved is to me, because the hand is open to welcome the specialist thing about our God. Our God, I mean very expansively. Everything that lives is God. That is the beloved, let's say. It is so close, and it's just a matter of turning forwards to it. And this is the secret of the contemplative trip in the 13 principles of mercy, which are basically, don't worry, he's great, right? And it's a truth that applies and sweetens in certain circumstances, and it's just not on the table or necessarily helpful in others. Like the splitting of the sea, The souls of the community are tied and bound and drawn after, whoever's been into the thing. And these 4 letters, Aleph, Lamed, Vav, Lamed, that we've been so obsessed with or bound up with, these 4 letters give way. Yamin in Gematria and Elul in Gematria come out to Kef, which in modern Hebrew is fun, But here means to sort of keep track of. Keep 140 or the big pay of 7, 8, 9, 10. The big pay. Because if manse pach, it would be 800. 800 and another 100, 900. In its fullness. Depends on if that pay is filled. Control can protect them and lifts them for prayers to the gates of the heavens without any kind of interference. He's really trying to get us to feel good about it. There won't be interference, he promises, a little too strongly, in the hopes of the kippah, the sort of defense wall. But he says something to disclaim the whole thing he says here. And the wise man says, there's no sense in taste, in will. The heart, it's not even the heart wants what it wants. In Tabrat, there's no reason why things are when it's about desire. Whatever. He says understand, and it's not fair. But the end of these 4 letters that are the 4 yuds, that have the 4 yuds. Sofei tevot shel dalet tevot halelu, aleph, lamed, vav, lamed. No, he's still talking about yamin and yukirokeh. The 4 yuds that are the 4 sides of the Merkava. And here he begins Trojan horsing his 40. The initial mem is the Merkava in this context. 3 dads, 1 mom, and an ironical one. It's almost an inversion joke happening here that he's going to try to explain in the polarity. This is why I'm doing it as one long one. And please forgive me for just keeping going. You can pause this and come back to this. The secret of these 4 letters that are the 4 yuds, which are 40, the 40, hint to the 40 days that Moshe received the Luchot, which started at the beginning of Virgo and ended on Yom Kippur, the first Yom Kippur in Libra. And they are sewn together in this way that he is describing through the 40 days. We're going to dig into this 40 because this 40 is the whole immersion. And these are days of reintegrates, of will, of capacity. ואגב הפרש לך משנה מרכיבה אשריכם 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 ישראל לפני מין אתם מטהרים ומטהר אתכם אביכם בשמיים שנאמר יחזקאל ודקתי עליהם מים טהורים וטיהרתם. He wants to say more. There's a big popular song. I think it might have been popular at the time. אשריכם 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 ישראל. It's an encouragement song. Good news. Good news. You're lucky. You're so lucky. Why? Because who are we purified by? It's very intimate. It's very close. Who is it that's going to be responsible for us at the end of this whole thing? Who is it that is washing me in process? It's Allah himself. God himself is the one washing my face, like Joni Mitchell, and I'm washing in them. And them here is also identified with the community itself. Mikva Israel Hashem, Mikva Matayat Mem, Afakash Baruch Matayat Israel, Amarakiba, Hinek Voteim Lo Nadao Kimamar Mufaze. That's the song about how excited we are and how lucky we are. The water that purifies us is Allah himself. Kadosh Baruch. And his footprints aren't known, his footsteps aren't known in this amazing saying that is just there in the Gemara, famously. It became a famous song in the Mishnah, sorry. It's a little mind-boggling. And they're not, its impact has not yet been observed. And you could say, you can start to come up with a thing. A mikvah, a technical bathhouse thing, technically has to be at least tatkas lugin, 800, 960 lugs. I don't know how much a lug is. It's like a liter, maybe. It's like a liter, but lugier, ובו יטהר אדם את עצמו ומביע אישה משפסק דברי בטליה תיקח. Like the Gemara says in the Yerushalmi, whatever they tied it in. And that is the standard, Jerusalem standard for mikvahs, at least 960 loops. לכל ברית יש דוד יסודות, לכל יסוד כלול מכולם היו יסודות. Wow. So, okay. everything that lives is made of the four elements. He's holding by, like, Neoplatonism and classicism. Everything that lives, right? Pre-Socratic concluded classicism. Everything that lives, you could break it down into like four elements, right? For the 40, the four yuds is the four elements, And every element includes them all. So you have 16 elements because there's the water in the fire, according to this theory. If phlogiston was sort of discredited, let's say if there was such a thing as elements that broke down into four, if there were fundamental breakdowns of things into only a narrow dipolarity of two axes and thus four directions exclusively. Let's say if you have a thing like that, you need to go and like dip in the water 16 times for just the whole self, Yudvav Pa'amim Samech. I'm sorry. 16 times 60 is some traditional amount of times to go in the water in Elul, just to dip a little more, just to clean a little more before the highest high holiday in Libra, just at the end of Virgo, just like a long series of dips in the water of the whole self, the four elements of the self into the 60, and into the four again. והנה להיות גם אדם כאשר נמשך אחרי הטומאה, התייסור רווחה, הטומאה והפריד את עצמו, או מן הקדוש. So here, we have some space for how much we do want to think of these things, not in Neoplatonic terms, i.e., not in polarities. But it is one of the major polarities, right? Pure and impure, right? Feeling right, feeling wrong, right? What is the definition of purity? You tell me, bro. How does it feel? Does it feel pure? Or does it feel polluted? Heavy or light? And this is true about anything, right? Our experience is the proof through whatever scale we use, which we then expose to experience of the scale through comprehension or taste. Or taste, I say again. A person is just drawn after the bummer, the gross. Just can't help it in the world. Economies of the world just force you into the gross, force you into the impure, which in the Hasidic time we started to be really associated with depression, this misery. You can't pray when you're bummed. You can't really be holy when you're just bummed. And it's unfair to say, and that must not be true, because holiness is the entire spectrum. Bummed is also holy, but excited is a better kind of holy, in that you're not bummed and you're happy instead of being sad. But bummed is still holy in this way. It's why we respect it. It's good to take some time. Grief. Like a funeral is like a very holy thing. Burying a body is a very holy thing. A person is drawn after the gross and the wrong and the somehow to deal with it, to negotiate through it. To extract whatever. There's a lot of reasons to play in mud and look for gold or just look for mud. Let's say, but the fundaments in the impure, in the gross, and the separations of the self from the holy, which in the Hasidic lineages he's coming from and talking about really is associated with the alive, with integrity and presence, wholeness. Holiness means you can be there. Like, what makes something holy? You're not in a hurry because you can be there with it because it's great. The longer you sit with it, the more it'll give you. That's how you know something's holy. You're not in a hurry to get away from it. And if you do have to, now this is different than say like the island volcano definition of holy, where holy is like keep a certain distance. And you do have that, except it's the sun that burns when you get too close to it. He's not going to make that metaphor over here. Let's see if he makes the water one. Ah. What is purification? What does it mean to feel better? A person has to annihilate themselves into the holy, into whatever the good thing is. And this is a trauma reaction in a lot of ways, right? Let's say something awful happens. You can't feel good until you just find something else to feel good. And whatever you feel good is what you're now trusting. And this is the nature of the holy. And this is the nature of cult. And this is the nature of relief. You go to a therapist and you feel safe there. Thank you. If you can afford it. And that's whatever sense. In order to purify in any way, you have to basically overwhelm. And that is what the baptismal practice in Judaism is. Clean yourself, your soul, your feelings, by just going in water. And this is the way we relate to showers in the world, right? I feel a little gross. I'm going to take a shower for as long as it takes to feel better. And that is the great divinity of showers, right? You go to shower and you will probably feel better, almost no matter what. Tzvi Elimelech of Dinov. Face around night, Mikva my name, Avakas Baruch Aries Mikva Tauran Mem. So the mikvah, famously, is in the shape of a mem. It's a mikvah, but it's a closed box with 4 sides in every direction except on top. Surat Menuba Remez Lebeten and the mother's womb. Can you think of a more important but obvious acknowledgement of what it is to dip into a baptismal pool, to go into water, not to swim or to triumph or to hunt, but just to go back into the water? It is the mother's womb. And keep in mind the association with mother as understanding and as the work and nature of Virgo. And this is ironic, but this fits in with the Eleusinian mystery. The mother and the maid are one. The mother you don't know. Once you do know her, once the mother is understood, it's the mother. Once it's not understood, it's the maiden, the quested. And this could be part of the Rachel and Leah schism described. And the degree to which Rachel is the other end of the Merkava, the sought after, the soft goal at the end of the rainbow that moves the rest of the chariot. The process of the dialectic, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is the dialectic classically without the negation of the negation that is reality. There's a wonderful thing we have. It's one of the nicest things in all of Judaism, I would argue, is just the ritual bath. You can just go in to be purified. And there's a great dude culture of it at every river that has like a devotional religious community that feels safe in a river and feels safe in a body of water. But where they don't, they put up places, bathhouses, ritual bathhouses, mikvahs. That's where conversions happen, in the water. Notably, moms are easier to convert than dads. And it's shaped like the men, like a box, squared, just like the womb, the rechem, the beten, the stomach, ha'em. And in the name mother, the final mem is one of these mems, the closed one, in the word and concept rather omniversally, right? Mom, ma is pretty globally understood as that very first thing. And in Hebrew, it's even there with the water. And the big question, ma, what? The what in what earth? It's a very old joke. I'm not going to make it now. הנה מדלקת קץ, בכנסות לוחמים מקווה ונקפל תלת גו תלת, בבטן האם המתיילד אחר כך כבריא חדשה. And here it is, they just kind of dip the 960 and they go in the 960, the 960 of the water. What is 960 lugs of water inside a square? Square, what is 960 squared into a structure? It is 3 and 3 going into the water and then doubled 3 against 3 in the womb. Tlat kolotlat, which also means like 3 on 3 on each side, right? Like the heavens and like the womb, like the inside, like the self. I keep saying womb, but it's using language of stomach, and I apologize for that. But maybe beten, belly. And then is born. You get out of the water. You ever go to just like a ritual pool or Harbin hot springs and then the cold water at the banyas, or just a freezing cold ocean, or even just a pool? You come out feeling like a new person. Pools are a little awful because of the chlorine. They're not alive. And if it exhausts you, it doesn't count as a mikvah. A mikvah has to be alive. The water has to feel refreshing, not chlorine-ish. Sorry. Oceans, fine. Rivers, fine. Rainwater, yes. Chlorine, not more than a certain amount. Oh, dispensation loophole. Not also, you can have a certain amount of tap water mixed in a certain percentage amidst, not to overcome the ratio in the thing at any time, at any moment, just that there should be more of the other thing the whole time. Emes b'Torah Dalet at Yosef, Rashi Tevot Yud Vav Pamim Sameh. And this is hinted in the Bible, and it was Dalet to Yosef. Yosef, that's my name, is 1676, either 80 and 76, or I think we're doing the big long version letter things. Mansepach. It's the 876. Rashi Tevot, the Yud Vav, the 60 times 16. And it's like the rabbi said, how good are your tents, Jacob? Like rivers is their outpouring. Because a river, that's where you go to baptize and be purified, man. And some people's houses are like that. You go to their houses and you feel refreshed, That is the way the beloved purifies each other, alive through and amidst God. And this is the hope of the water that we share, that our homes are at their best, right? Refuge. Even the word home alludes to the maternal nature of the home, faithfully. מנחלים מעלים את הדם מטומאת הרע, כך בתי כנסיות בתי מדרש חוש מעלים. על כן לרמז זה היה בירושלים, ת"פ בתי כנסיות, ת"פ בתי מדרי משעות. So the Gemara in Bracha says something adorable, that why are rivers the thing that the tents are good like? Because they purify, like the assembly tents, the clubs, the places where we meet up and get to have divinity in the context of each other, synagogues and places of learning, batei midrashot. They lift up, and for this reason, Jerusalem had a rule. They had 480, and here I know that it's the small pay, so it's 480 synagogues and 480 learning, like yeshivas, but batei midrashot, learning centers in its heyday during the top of the funding of the thing for like ritual reasons. 480 and 480. Let's see if you put together. Is 480 plus 480. It's gotta be like not 1,000. That's for sure. 960. 6. 480. 480. Sachakol tatkas. Oh yeah, there it is. 800, 908, and 60. 960. 480 plus 400 is 960. Yes. Tatkas. Shimikveh. And this is the amount of waters that got to be in the mikvah and for it to count as a truly purifying, refreshing experience to actually convert someone into a new person. Lamed Yud Tav, Rav Tav, Lamed Yud Tav, Ze'erata. And for this reason, through this, are overcome, or nullified the klipot of imagination, let's say, of Venus, of Lamed Yud Tav. Or say, I don't want to say her name, I'm not feeling lucky today. But let's say Lamed is 30 and Yud is 10. That's 40, 80, and Tav, 480. Right? There's the strong compulsion, and there's the weak compulsion, the big one and the little one, Ravta and Ze'era. Right? There's the great divine mother, and then there's the fantasy that is also part of the experience of the mother that alienates, but also engages. 480 is her name-o. Lamed Yud Taf. Strong and weak. And together, in Gematria, they are this 960. Because that's what's being washed away, right? Grossness, which itself is a side effect of compulsion, let's say, right? The thing that squeezes out, right? Ugh. But here it is. In the mikvah is the purification of the people, of the thing. In the water is who we are. It part of what defines the whole trip, the priesthood of the trip, and the experience of the trip. Washing up. It's the beginning of the whole priesthood all the way up. It's the beginning of all the prayers. You can't do anything holy until you wash your hands. Maybe your face too. Maybe your ass too. For sure your hands. Atomic vitality swab, tamshi swab, the small dynamic bomb, Siatambulat Mikva, Libot Smam, Makva, Tasi Abitsara, Memorable, Mizashuvaila. And this whole integrity and reintegration trip in Judaism. How do people come and why are the Jews stay together? Traditionally, the bathhouses brought everyone back because they're where you go to clean up. Now our bathhouses are very privatized, unless you're living in ancient Rome or a nice part of Japan or anywhere you have a good bathhouse culture. If you have a good bathhouse culture, you have shared accountability ultimately, and you have reintegration in it. And the thing is part of why people crave gyms, just to have a social accountability and reintegration into the race somehow through washing. Specifically in the shape of the womb of our mothers, the big mem, the big closed mem, the big squared mem, hinting to tshuva ilah, hinting to understanding, which is repentance above. Em habanim nikrat Maya. The mother of the children is called me. Who? It's called me. Mem Yud. As is known, there are those that ask, and there's a footnote there. Bino lamatuva. Okay. Moshe Bazar. Me. Your pelecha. It's a line from, Lamentations. Who, me, who will hear you? Who will hear you? Me Yirfelecha. And the Zohar expands. Mi vadai Yirfelecha. That's right. Who will for sure heal you? Who, like the mystery. Mystery starts with me, the question, and me, the water, and me. The question is bound the understanding that lets integrity happen, that lets the reconciliation into and through the pure, faith. Why is it so nice to have a hug? Because it means somebody trusts you. It means someone believes in you. And therefore, what is impossible? And here I think he's making a throwaway pun. The days are Yemay. The days are Yemay. The days of will and the days of reintegration. Given by Allah. Israelim Krovo Taram Yavnotam, to purify everyone from everything that they're just weighed down in. Their sins, right? Not their bad habits, their patterns, their failures, sins. Avonot. Avon implies something you kind of didn't mean to do, but it's like something someone has and carries, right? A vice, failure, avon. Kamo Mikva. And this is a wonderful opportunity this time, this little window, this week off. Given to the people to purify from our bad patterns, like the water purifies, and to activate us like new things that we never were before, as if we were alive and able to be a radically new, self-decided thing or something. Yom Kippurim. This is all in brackets. And that's why there's 40 days from the beginning of Virgo until Yom Kippur. Hinehem Tatkas Shaot, 40 days, which is 960 hours. Hem Gam Kem Mikva Tahar Shabitula Bria, 960, like the water. It's the same measurement, the hours in 40 days, and the amount of water in the four-sided pool, because you are being dipped in a 40 of some kinds of three-dimensional 40 that thus is 16 times 60. The chance to nullify every of these elements, whatever four elements we're counting by: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Rachel, earth, wind, math, and science, whatever 16 elements, each one with 60 going around, like the arounds, that just makes someone feel like a new person. Just enough of a complete immersion in the me, in the ma, to make you feel like new, so that you could have clarity, peace, and integrity and wholeness with our surroundings and our God. And that's why Rabbi Kiva said, you guys are so lucky. You have each other and you have the water, and you know that you are each of that. And Allah, amidst and through this, because he makes this joke too, Rabbi Kiva, before who, which is the water, which is who, like Allah, who, me, atematarim, who are you purified before and amidst the water that you are, the mother that you are, the mother that we are, the water that we are. Ashrechem, yay, so lucky to have. And this is what integrity is all about. Olam HaTshuva, the return into the world of just wholeness. You need to have the shape of the 40 to go into, do this. שזהו מעשיכם ועוזכם וטהרתכם בסוד ממורד עולם התשובה נקרא מי ותבטל יסודותיכם בתת כעס לוגי מים י' בפעמים סמך כן מי בטהר אתכם. And then in those things, in those measurements, 40 writ large into 16 and 60, into 40 and 10, the world of integration after all, the mem in yamin and the yud in yamin. The nun is somewhere else. This is just me. This is just the elemental. Limatel batatkas that itself expands into the aforedescribed 960 hours. That really make you a person those 40 days. 40 days in a whole, make you feel like a new person. V'zeu Shemai Mikva Yisrael Adonai Ma Mikva Mitaret Meim Afakash V'Matach Yisrael Ma Mikva Mitaret Meim Afakash V'Matach Yisrael Tzelagin Ma Mikva Mitaret Meim. Which is to say, what is the pool that purifies the grossed out, the depressed, in the 960 volumes, liters of water? Even God. Avkash Baruch HaMatai Yisrael Titkas Shaul Shebaim Yom Yom V'dai B'zeh. And he says, okay, enough of this. He said it 3 times. Just like the water makes you feel better, so does the season, 40 days, which are the 40 that you need to go through something to feel like a new person. There's a short one. There's one more short one before we get to the big one that I meant the whole time. I'm only going to do the short one, and I'm going to save the big one because I need some water too. Elul, the guys who look for acronyms also found one for Ana Liado, please. Next place. This is from Exodus 21:13. Elul. It's an acronym for Elul. Ana Liado, please next to and put yourself, a place. The word place is makom, and it's at the end of the acronym. It's not in the including acronym. The kavanah b'remez is the intention in this little hint. Afilu ha'adam eino mekaven, even though a person doesn't even mean or intend. Hine ha'elohim izdamen li'ado elo makom asher yanum shama. Even if a person doesn't try, hard not to just get a little organized and do accounting and do accountability prep. No matter how bad any of us are, in any way, no matter how bad any of us are, in any way, even if you don't want to be better, the part of you that does, and can't help but notice. Even though a person doesn't mean to or try, the God just invites them in this time. In Virgo, in the context of the thing that is Virgo leading into Libra, the 40 days, this 40-day window, not just Virgo, but Virgo leading into Libra. And they are so bound, right? There's even old Babylonian versions where they just are identical and twinned. Nike and Homegirl. God still makes place unavoidably for us to get a little closer and notice and want to take more responsibility, because it's just understanding itself that makes take a little more responsibility. And this is the natural divinity that calls to everyone. And it's telling how seasonal divinity can be in terms of what we set for it, but in terms of also what we're reacting to and what we're willing to trust into or celebrate or rage against. I knew because people just suddenly start noticing as it's really hot, but starts to get ready to maybe almost cool down. People just feel good for a while and start to notice, hey, what are we doing? What are we doing? And everyone that they miss and want to reach back to and be sorry to. Have you guys noticed it? I feel like I noticed it a little bit, just the people I miss. And I feel so sorry because I feel like the people I miss the most are the ones I love the most and thus feel like I can't quite reach out to because I owe them too much in some secret way, or the ones I'm just really mad at and thus clearly projecting and missing in the context of, the enemies, good enemies. Sorrow, right? Sorrow, the pressures that we can't help but notice and need integrity around to feel okay about stuff. And this is what we go to purification mechanisms for, whatever we can get. And here there's a temporal one, just whatever you can look at in yourself and in the context of each other, work out with each other. And of course, the literal thing, water's pretty good. But the intention is this. People just want to do better, really, for no reason. And it comes from heaven, as much as anything else. It's not practical. It's just a wind that blows through that's like, I wonder how Billy's doing. I'm so sorry I haven't called Billy back. I wonder how he's doing. I realize why I'm angry, but I realize also I could be a little more responsible. Maybe. I don't know. I know. So tevot elor ba'im tevot b'gematria aim. Oh, but these 4 words, ana liado v'samti lecha, the gematria of the last letters in these 4 words are 41. Aim, mother. Hints to remez makom hatshuva ima ila. The place of integrity is the divine mother above, the most high mother who is understanding. Ima ila, the highest mother who is understanding, right? The first hey. And in that chariot described there, it's Isaac, right? Who we talked about earlier in the content noticing trip, Yitzchak. But it's her as understanding itself and as integrity itself, because our integrity depends on our willingness to be honest with ourselves. And through our honesty with ourselves, we can begin to understand ourselves and our resentments and our limitations, maybe. I don't know. I've never really been sorry about anything. Except the things I didn't understand. Those I'm still sorry about. Mother. This is a wonderful opportunity, guys, to realize her, to grasp her, the mother above, who is understanding itself and perspective about ourselves and our responsibilities, and everything we're willing to be sorry about is something we can begin to understand. And this is the place, that takes a person around, tests a man. This is the place that tests a man. I think Yanus tests a man. Blessed is the pusher from beginning to end, from Genesis to Apocalypse, from before and after, above and below. Told in his story, in his gospel, the time of the test, of the journey, of the opportunity, in the acronym. And gave at the end of this acronym, the beginning of the acronym is Elul, the time. And the end acronym is the place. The place. Makom Hanisa. Which is to say, great divine mother herself. There's one more, you guys, and I will get to it someday. It's about David and Jonathan in this paradigm. Love y'all.